Hey YouTube, Dan Heng Permansor Terrae, or PT for short, is finally here, which means shield sustains are back on the menu. With the recent meta being highest in this and highest in that, HP scalers have been on top of the scene, but with DHPT, we've got some variety coming through. He's also got his own twist up his sleeve though. As a preservation unit, you'd assume that he'd be def scaling, right? Nah, DHPT is full attack scaling, a unique trait among his path type, and combines big, beefy shields with juicy attack buffs for dual utility modernized sustain unit. At just easier S1, he's very easy to play, shields your team, provides a summon and attack boost to your allies, and is very SP friendly. My name is Xlice, and in this video we'll be covering everything you need to know about DHPT, his kit, builds, Eidolons, team comps, and showcasing his power at E0. These are going to be using premium signature light cones, so for budget friendly players, lower your expectations a bit on damage, and if there's any crazy quality of life, I'll be sure to mention them. Since this is going to be done on the CE server, of course that means things are subject to change for full release, so keep that in mind. First, a full guide on how DHPT works. So, Dan Heng has now reached his final starter evolution since the beginning of the game. We started with 4-star Dan Heng, then we went to 5-star DHIL, and now we have 5-star DHPT. At this point, you could consider him like a golden Charizard. He's physical typing, on preservation path, with harmony-esque traits, and has unique attack scaling. A preview of his stats, we've got 3.4k HP, over 4,000 attack, no relevant crit stats, with decent speed and maxed out ERR. Here's a core breakdown of his goods. So he has 3 main perks to his kit. 1. He provides an attack scaling shield to all allies pretty consistently. 2nd, he attaches a dragon to your main DPS called Soul Dragon, which is considered a summon but not a memo sprite for all buff purposes. 3. He also buffs your main DPS according to his attack. And also, after every single ultimate, Soul Dragon gets enhanced for 2 actions, dealing AoE physical damage and extra damage calculated off the ally who's buffed. The tooltip number will show how many enhanced dragon actions are left. In my opinion, he's very similar to Aventurine in terms of shielding, but has his own benefits of buffing allies and adding additional damage. Let's get into some specifics. His skill sets up the Soul Dragon on an ally you choose called Bondmate, and also provides a team-wide shield for 3 turns that scales off of DHPT's attack. At 4,000 attack, the shield is roughly 1,200 in strength and can stack up to 3x of the original value for a max amount of 3,600. This ability counts as a targetable action on an ally, so for someone like Phainon, they'll get Core Flame out of it. His technique is a classic modern skill saver, providing a free skill usage at the beginning of battle without consuming any skill points. It'll prep Bondmate on the active character, identical to how Synergies technique works. Talent is going to describe a bit of Bondmate related details. So, we have the dragon, the Soul Dragon, is 165 speed, and when it takes action, it will dispel 1 debuff from all allies and provides a similar, smaller AoE shield for 3 turns at half the value that the skill provides. Ultimate is going to be dealing AoE physical damage to all enemies and provides an AoE shield for 3 turns of the same strength as his skill. It will also enhance Soul Dragon for its next 2 actions, adding a follow-up attack that is split in scaling between DHPT and your Bondmate ally. This just means that the first portion of damage will be scaling off of DHPT stats, and the second portion of damage scales off of your ally's attack stats. So, functionally, that's basically his entire kit. Pretty simple. Now, what can you expect for his gameplay? Also pretty simple. You have optional skill usage every 3 turns, mostly basic attacking for SP generation, and you're going to ultimate to refresh Soul Dragon enhanced attacks whenever it's available. If you want to be even more SP positive, you can actually ignore skill usage after setting up Bondmate and just basic attack every single turn, relying on shield generation from Soul Dragon attacks and ultimate usage. So he's pretty hands-off for a sustain and very easy to splash as a standalone unit into any attack scaling team. Now for extra trace node benefits that he provides, we have the A2 trace. This one adds an attack buff to his skill, increasing the attack of the Bondmate by 15% of Dan Heng PT's attack. Notice that there's no turn duration for this, and there's no limit to the attack bonus. So as long as Bondmate is active, you're going to get this value. Remember that the technique does count as a skill usage upon entering battle, so this A2 trace will be active immediately. At 4k attack, this is a 600 attack buff for the Bondmate ally. A4 trace. DHPT gets an automatic 40% action advance when combat starts, which is basically a free Vonwak planner set passive. And whenever the Bondmate ally attacks, DHPT gains 6 energy that scales with ERR and action advances Soul Dragon by 15%. A6 trace. When Soul Dragon takes action, provides an extra mini shield at 25% the strength of the skill shield to the lowest shielded ally. It also adds 1 additional damage instance to the enhanced Soul Dragon attack scaling off of the Bondmate's attack. So with these extra trace bonuses, Soul Dragon's enhanced action has a total of 2 additional damage sources scaling off of the bondmate, and also more extra shield procs. For these extra trace nodes, we have 2 speed nodes, 5 attack nodes, and 3 defense nodes. Low-key, don't know what the defense nodes are doing here since he's attack scaling, but I guess they still want to remind you that he's preservation path because Lamau. Anyways, total stat gain is going to be 5 speed, 28% attack, and 22.5% defense. Overall, this is what his kit boils down to. Basic attack as much as possible for SP generation, skill to replenish those shields if necessary, and ultimate to restore enhanced Soul Dragon attacks. Remember that his attack buff is permanent as long as bondmate is active, and you can't really manipulate Soul Dragon's action order with any ability. The ultimate just adds 2 enhanced actions. So he's pretty much just a comfy character overall and just provides shields, attack buffs, and a summon for your DPS to synergize with Sunday. For leveling priority, his important scalings are everything except for basic attack. His personal damage is pretty negligible overall, so we're just looking for shield strength. Skill, in my opinion, will be the most important to max out first, since all of his other shield scalings from other abilities are based off of the skill's amount. Now onto his Eidolons. E1. After using his ultimates, you gain +1 SP, and the bondmate ally gains 18% all-type respen. This makes him even more SP friendly, and also gives him breathing room to be a bit more free on his personal skill usage. This will be especially valuable in Phainon teams since using a skill grants those necessary core flame stacks. E2. This one provides some pretty substantial bonuses to Soul Dragon. His ultimate now grants 4 enhanced Soul Dragon actions, up from the original 2. Ult now also action advances Soul Dragon by 100%. Soul Dragon's enhanced actions are twice as strong and provide 2 times the shield strength. E3, E5, these are standard trace level increases. E4, 20% damage reduction to your main DPS bondmate, and then finally, E6. This one provides substantial bonuses to your ally that's buffed by bondmate. You get 20% vulnerability percent for all enemies, you get 12% ignore defense for the ally, and the ultimate's raw damage now adds additional damage scaling off of bondmate's attack. So overall, the Eidolons are split between his different roles in the team. E1 provides team quality of life and ally respen. E2 provides Soul Dragon bonuses, which provide a bit more chip damage and more shield value. E4 provides damage reduction, which provides conditional to 0 value depending on how much your team struggles in content. And then E6 is the most useful with vulnerability percent and ignore defense, but it's on E6, so it's the most expensive to access. In my opinion, I'd say for those interested in vertical investment, E1 is probably the stopping point unless you want to go all the way to E6. Now onto light cones. So his situation is a bit unfortunate. Preservation path, but attack scaling eliminates most of our other preservation light cones because they typically scale with defense. It's basically just a signature and a battle pass light cone called Journey Forever Peaceful. Japar's light cone has the highest base attack out of all remaining LCs, but it's still significantly worse than his signature. So let's first take a look at the signature. Huge base attack at 582 and also has 64% attack from its passive. Additionally, provides team-wide healing and healing for the lowest current HP target, while also granting damage bonus for all allies, increased if they have summons. This basically does it all. Has huge raw attack benefits, extra sustain and healing if enemies get past his shield, and also provides damage bonus buffs for the entire team. Then Japar's LC. Second strongest base attack for preservation LCs at 476. Also provides increased aggro value for slightly more team survivability for him to tank. Then we have Journey Forever Peaceful. Its base attack is quite low at 370. But his passive is universally useful for him. 12% shield strength and also 12% damage bonus for an ally with his shield. Solid overall for him to use, especially if you have it at S5. The only thing it lacks is raw attack value for his buff. Now, besides these light cones, we can also consider non-preservation based light cones. These we're looking for strict base attack value since their passives won't activate at all. We first have a list of 635 and 687 base attack. Phainon's LC is going to be the only one at 687 base attack, but of course, if you are using Phainon, you probably won't have access to this. We also have Synergies, we have Dill Pickles, we have Fish Xiaos, we have Hertas, we have Robins, we have Hycelins, we have Acherons, and we have Xlice. And then we have even more at 582, which is basically the same as his own. We have a pretty big list that goes all the way down to the Wochas. So it's going to be ending with Welts, which is a standard light cone. So a lot of these light cones are going to be used on their signature owners, so instead consider some that maybe you don't use anymore or standard light cones. Overall, base attack matters quite a bit for him, so if you don't plan on getting a signature, either S5 of the Battle Pass LC or any of these high base attack ones that I just showed will do just fine. Relics. So we're going best in slot with 4-piece Recluse set, providing a combined 22% shield effect and 15% crit damage for all allies that are shielded by the wearer. Other niche choices include 4-piece War Warrior Goddess only if you have his signature LC. This 4-piece does require healing to activate its bonuses, which is not included in his base kit, but is added on with his LC. Then we have planners. We're sticking with classic ERR-based 2-piece sets. Lushaka is a universally available choice, granting 12% attack to your first team lineup. And we also have Penacony set to buff same type users, which in this case would be physical users. Main stats are going to be very straightforward. He's not a crit scaler by any means, and his personal damage is not even a factor to consider. So for this reason, he only cares about 2 functional stats: attack and speed. There is no limit to his attack buff provided by A2 Trace, so after reaching the normal speed thresholds, increasing his attack as much as possible is ideal. Currently, his build path looks like follows: attack body, speed boots, attack orb, and ERR rope. Boots and rope can also interchange with attack percent if you're looking for a single rotation, massive front-loaded nuke clear. For longer and extended fights, speed boots and ERR rope are ideal for maintaining high action count and ult uptime. For substats, grabbing defensive stats is always going to be valuable, so any additional stats of effect resistance, defense, or HP will be more than acceptable. It's also worth noting that flat attack does still retain a tiny bit of value, but it will never be a priority. On the topic of relics, it's also very important to mention that since DHPT adds a summon to your main carry, if you don't already have one, this allows them to potentially run the Banana Amusement Park 2-piece set for 48% total crit damage instead of the original 16%. This is pretty substantial and may end up being their best in slot if they pair with DHPT. So with Creator Server relics, mine's looking pretty solid. I've opted for attack, speed, attack, ERR with Sig Lycone. He's on the higher end with 4.3k attack, decent speed at 147, and of course 124.4 ERR. Expect your attack to range between 3 and 4.5k depending on your LC, main stat choices, and substats. Besides that, as much speed as you can get, and 124 ER is pretty standard. Team synergies. So the only real caveat to his kit is that he's attack scaling focused, and with his sustain capabilities being pretty universal, you can basically splash him anywhere that has an attack scaling hypercarry. Teams that will benefit more from his specific scalings will be those carries that really love Sunday support but don't have a summon of their own to take advantage of his extra buffs. Coupled with Synergia support, these teams will see the most impactful gains from DHPT. The carries in this category include Phainon, Anaxa, and Archer. And then besides that, there's a pretty big list of other attack scaling carries that will rely on DHPT as either a best in slot sustain or one competitive with other premium sustains like Huohuo. These will include T-Herta, Aglaya, Hycealans or DOT focused teams, Saber, and any other attack scalers that are not from recent Amphoreus releases. Comps like Hycealans and Saber still greatly enjoy benefits from Huohuo, but with a free DHPT, you now have more flexibility in the sustains to run. In general, comps surrounding DHPT are going to look like follows. You have your carry, you have an action advancer, you have a universal support, and then you have Dan Heng. Action advancers are going to include Sunday Bronya, RMC Robin, or Sparkle. Then we have universal supports that include Synergia, Tribby, Silverwolf, and Cypher. And of course, if you're running specific teams like DOT, you'll be running unique team combos that won't involve any of the typical support characters. Now, it's a shame that I must admit the Aventurine era is slowly having its curtains drawn. With new Dan Heng PT, Aventurine's primary role as our de facto shield sustainer is no longer the case. Given Dan Heng PT has consistent access to shield stacking, has better buffing, unique utility, and specific synergy with Sunday. It was a good run while it lasted, and I think my twin did pretty damn well for as long as it was. Overall, everyone should be getting one free Dan Heng, and he's an excellent, reliable, sustain choice for all your attack carries. Alright, so I've got 2 showcases for you guys today, one with Phainon carry and one with Anaxa carry. Both of these carries gain massive value from the trio of Synergia Sunday and Dan Heng PT, with Phainon being a meta carry and Anaxa being more unconventional. Now, DHPT allows access to Sunday's full buffs, and Synergia copies their strongest nukes to hit twice. So first up will be the Anaxa carry, and then the second will be with Phainon. All units are using the respective E0 S1 signature Lycone setups, so drop your damage expectations by about 20% if you're running more budget-friendly Lycone options. So with the Anaxa comp, we're leading with PT, Sunday, Synergia, and then Anaxa. Both Synergia and Dan Heng PT both have the same technique type, so it's going to follow the active character and provide them buffs when they enter battle. So there's Synergia's free skill usage, and then Dan Heng's free skill usage. We're going to basic here, because we don't need to refresh that E. Synergia's going to press E to move forward her charges. Alright, then we do Synergia's ult into 4 out of 6 charges to prep Anaxa's double skill. So Anaxa and Sunday here are tuned slightly so that Anaxa goes first. In this particular case, it's optimal for him to stay at 4 out of 6 for this. It's not always going to happen, but because he gets a double skill most of the time, if we do 4 out of 6 with Anaxa and then a buff with Sunday and Action Advance, he'll be able to get the exact double skill when it's his buff turn. So right here, he's at 6 out of 6. His next skill usage is going to hit 4 times. Doing a quick stat check here, we have about 5k attack, we have 100 crit, 500 crit damage, and 236 additional damage bonus. Sending 2 E's here is going to be 400k each, and then we get the duplication here as well. So in total, we do about 350k average on 4 additional hits, and it's enough to force his ultimate again. So pretty solid so far. This is basically the rotation that we're going to be running. Sometimes we're not going to be speed tuned with Anaxa on Sunday, but that's okay. Right now, you can see on the action order, I noticed that Anaxa is properly speed tuned with Sunday. So we're chilling here. I just want to make sure that I get enough charges so that he does end up getting that copied skill. All right, so best case scenario here, we do have Dan Heng being stunned here, which is best case. Once Soul Dragon goes, it will dispel all these debuffs, which is pretty nice. We phased into wave 2. So Dan Heng is still CC'd here, but then Soul Dragon goes and we're good. So you'll notice here, look at the action order. We have Anaxa going, right? And we have Sunday pretty far down. So I'm going to full buff here, and we're going to make it so that Anaxa is going to get all of this hits for this next sequence, because I'm not going to be able to wait for Sunday to action advance. This is just going to happen. If you get CC'd, or there's a little bit of a turn order difference, Sunday is not going to be perfectly tuned to Anaxa. So we're getting 4 procs here. I'm going to wait until all 4 of these go before initiating his ultimate so I don't waste one by accidentally canceling it out. Perfect. All right, so we get a single target ultimate, which is not going to do that much damage, but that's totally expected. Soul Dragon's going to go. This is about 23k. And now we're just chipping down his shield. Okay, we can basic with Synergies here. I still have the speed buff. We're getting an action advance here. Getting full buff to Anaxa. Anaxa's going to be able to go twice here. Once, and then twice. So now we just wait for the next sequence. Break bars down. We're going to go ahead and E here because I have extra skill points, just to get a little bit faster on his ultimate uptime. Synergies is able to either basic or E here. I choose to E here because I can get an ultimate right afterwards. This will push him to 8 out of 6 so that he can charge up again very soon. So Sunday's going here. We're going to be able to get a full 4 bounces here. We'll see where the enemy's HP is at. So this should be able to phase here. There we go. So I waited all the way, and now we're going to proc the ultimate right as the phase change. It's not going to do that much damage. Doing 56k here, totally fine. As you guys notice, in terms of sustain, by the way, I am using Signature Light Cone. So even though some of the enemy's attacks are doing more damage than his shield, we're able to heal that up pretty nicely with the DHPT. And then you guys can see the shield count. It's basically the full HP bar of all my characters. So sustain wise, we're feeling very, very good about this. All right, so that's going to be the second cycle here. We're aiming to clear this in 2 cycles, which I think is possible. I have the boss mechanic go on DHPT. He's going to be able to shield that up. No problems. We're going to go basic here. So Anaxa's perfectly at 4 out of 6 here, which means that this sequence here into Sunday Action Advance is going to be a perfect total buff rotation. So another stat check here, about 5k attack same. Crit damage is a little lower at 460%, and damage bonus is also lower. Ultimate on single target is 54k, and then we're going to send 4 E copies here, because we're going to be able to get Synergies' copy mid-E. So as you guys see here, there we go. 4 uses there. Breaking his shield over time. Synergies getting a +1 skill point. We're 3 out of 6 charges. We have enough skill points. We're going to send an E again. And now we are properly ready for the next rotation. So 4 out of 6 is exactly what we want for Anaxa. Because if the enemy has enough debuffs, we're getting double copied skill, which will be a 6 out of 6. If you have 5 out of 6, Synergies' Presage will actually proc early. And you don't want that to happen if you have Sunday tuned right after him. So here we just basic. I do not want to push Anaxa to 5 out of 6 here. So this is perfect. Now Presage activates, but we do get Sunday to buff, so it's actually perfect here. And right before the cycle ends, we should be able to kill here. with basically the same amount of buffs. So ultimate, 350 AK into 4 E's. It's not going to live through 4 E's, but this just proved the concept. 500k the first one, 500k the second one, and he's gone. Yeah, so that's a pretty solid showcase. I do not anticipate Anaxa being able to one-cycle this, and I think that's because Anaxa is not our conventional carry, right? But as you guys can see, with the combination of Sunday, Synergies, and DHPT, Anaxa gets max value out of this team, right? He doesn't originally have a summon, so DHPT is providing one with Soul Dragon, which means that when he's buffed with Sunday, he gets full crit damage bonuses, and then when he's action advanced, if we can time it, Synergies is going to copy his skill. Instead of going 2 times, it's going to go 4 times. Alright, so now we're going to be going to the Phainon comp. This is basically the same thing. I just want to show you guys because these 2 comps are the ones that gain the most from DHPT. We have a lot of other attack carries, right? I listed about 7 of them. But those attack carries, they do really like Dan Heng, but they don't get the absolute max value out of his synergy between both Sunday and also Synergies. Alright, we're leading like normal here. Setting up with PT, into Sunday, into Synergies, and having both technique buffs on Phainon as he enters. Alright, so first thing's a couple nuance, right? We want core flame generation on Phainon here. I noticed that it's okay to basic into ultimate here. He does end up getting enough core flame. But in the case where you cannot guarantee enemy RNG, you might need to skill with PT and skill with Synergies. So this comp ends up being pretty skill point heavy, even if DHPT is normally a SP generation bot. Because sometimes we do want that E to give us +1 core flame. But in this particular setup, you guys will notice we are 4 out of 6 on Synergies charges. We are speed tuned for Sunday here. So he's going to action advances right here. We have 11 out of 12. Now we're going to be 13 out of 12, and we're going to enter our ult. Alright, so in ultimate mode, we're going to check his stats really quick. He has about 7.2k attack, 400 crit damage, and 377% damage bonus. Quite a bit. And we are fully buffed here with about 25 buffs across the team. We do also have Synergies copy here, so we're going to send that Meteor. First Meteor is going to do 1.6 mil, kill the ads here. And then second one's going to be fully on those 2 elite mobs, and they're both dead. So we instantly clear wave 1, and we go into wave 2. Let's see how many cycles it takes. I'm expecting about 1 cycle here. So this is a little bit fickle. We're going to wait until we have a 3 to 6. Now we're going to send an E. So we're only going to be able to copy the last one, but we do need to use the E here because we do get AoE here. So for the next 2 actions, we have 3 turns left after using that. We're going to use our Q or our W in order to make sure that we have that copy for the last one. So even if I do have enough charges for the E bounce, we do want to wait 1 turn here. With these 3 guys up, we're going to choose to do a W here. We get 3 charges here. And also it preps us for our next ult. And we also can see the counter damage that happens as well. So Phainon's counter damage with this is about 500k, which is pretty nice. Only 3 enemies. And now we have the copied meteor. So total damage here is 2 million. We also phase him. And then second phase. 777k single target. Pretty nice. And now we're just waiting for these ads to go, and then Phainon's going to exit his ult. Alright, so 64% HP on the boss. We have 4 core flame. We have 0 out of 6 Synergies. It's either Phainon or a DHPT. I think Phainon is okay here because we do get targeted. But I choose DHPT here because I want to preserve the HP just to make it look a little bit nicer. Okay, so now I E onto Phainon for that core flame, and then we send an ultimate here. So we're just also going to E. We want that core flame as fast as possible. Then we get an instant ultimate for +2 charges on her. She's 3 out of 6. And then we do Phainon into Sunday into Phainon. Pretty normal here. So it's going to be perfect core flame generation, as you guys can see. I do not have enough for Sunday's ultimate, which is totally fine. So all those skill usages were needed for Phainon to get exactly 12 core flame at this spot. So here's the thing. I do not want to E here because I don't have Synergies copy. What do? I first do a stat check, but I'm going to Q instead of E because we really want to copy the right ability here. So I am maxed on my stacks here, but again, we want to wait for this passage. So after he goes, we have 45% left, and we have a double E nuke coming. Now we send it. This damage is 1.2 million. Both the eyes are dead. He's broken. And then this is setting it. And it ending off with a 2.6 million damage. Very nice. Solid one cycle. All right, so closing thoughts. What do I think of Dan Heng PT? In my opinion, it really feels like he's going to be as universal as Gallagher. Really strong survivability, and if you manage to get his light cone, what is bro doing? And if you manage to get his light cone, he can also heal the damage that bypasses his shields, while also providing pretty impactful buffs and a nice synergy with Sunday. As a free unit, it's a no-brainer to invest into him, and moving forward, budget players can very easily rely on Gallagher E6 and Dan Heng PT to round out their sustains until they decide to snatch up maybe a Hyacinth or a Huohuo. In my opinion, only the ultra whales who have E6, S5 everything can consider not investing into him at all. For everyone else, he's a very reliable upgrade to have for your roster. Anyways, that's going to wrap it up for Dan Heng PT's complete guide. If this video helped you out, don't forget to like and subscribe for more easy to digest guides and showcases. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. Take care. Brother, you gotta, bro, stop doing that. Okay, he's just blooming. All right.